It's 8:16 at iFiber One News Radio, and a good morning to you. I'm Jeff Slakey. I'm happy to have in studio from Mason County Public Health, it's Deb Riley. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff.
How are you doing?
Just fine, thank you.
Good. Let's see here. If you could pull that microphone a little bit closer to you here, and
Sure.
There we go. All right, so we're in to talk about some drinking water. I know that there were some reports online recently on the Facebook about some E. coli reports, and the information was... there was kind of a struggle there to get the information out, the accurate information out. Is that kind of right, what's going on here?
That's kind of right.
Okay.
Not being of the social media generation, I couldn't believe how fast it took off, and we were getting calls from everywhere. Now, mind you, this system was up on the North Shore outside of Belfair area, and there were people from the city of Shelton calling and saying, I'm reading that my water is bad. What should I do? And that led us to believe that, people really need to know where their drinking water comes from.
Yeah.
And in this county, we have a variety of ways that people get drinking water. We have the big Group A public water systems like Shelton and Belfair, and some of the school districts. There are some nice, good-sized systems. As a matter of fact, there are 230 of these Group A systems in Mason County, and that serves 39,893 residents.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot. And those systems are regularly tested.
Uh-huh.
There's some built-in checks and balances, and that's what catches things like these bad water samples. And there are protocols in place. If you have this kind of a sample, these are the things that need to be done. So it's a really good system, and as we see, it works.
Yeah. So are these humans that do the tests, or is it mechanicized, if that's a word?
Humans collect the sample, send it to a lab where the machines do the work.
Okay.
Yeah. So then we have Group B public water systems. These are smaller water systems. They have 3 to 14 connections and a population under 25 people.
Okay.
We have almost 750 of those systems in the county.
Oh, my gosh.
There's 3 just in my neighborhood.
Wow.
So, yeah. And then the rest of the homes are served by an individual well or a two-party water system. In Mason County, we treat a two-party water system just like an individual system. We have about 70 new wells a year drilled in Mason County. We have an agreement with the Washington State Department of Ecology that we go out and look at the construction of these new wells, make sure the seal is in place. We try and be on site for a certain percentage of them to make sure what they call the can is in place. It's the big metal tube that they put down inside the drilling. Then they put the bentonite seal in and pull that can back out.
Okay.
So there's a few things that the people look at, and the people that go out and do that on a day-to-day basis could really tell you about it.
That'd be fascinating to go see how that process works.
Oh, it is. And then every well decommissioning in the county, and we have 4 to 10 of those a year, we're on site for the decommissionings.
So about 4 to 10 going out of commission a year, but 70 coming online. What is the reason for that? Are people deciding to get their own well property, or is the water starting to go away, or what's going on?
They live in an area where they don't have a public water system available to them, so they drill their own well.
Okay.
And those usually have their own septic system as well. So, but when we look at this, it's really cool because little over 50% of our residents are served by the Group A's. About 10% are served by the Group B's. And just under 40% have individual wells.
Okay.
So that puts it in better perspective for me. And people who have individual wells or two-party wells are the responsible party for making sure their water is safe to drink.
Okay.
They should be collecting water samples, taking it in to have it sampled, watching if they notice anything different. If they start getting sand in their system or something, they've had a cave-in. so that's when you talk to a professional, a well driller. The Group Bs and the Group As are on regular, or the Group As are on regular monitoring schedules. Group B regulations recently changed. But my recommendation to anybody who is on a public water system is read that consumer confidence report that the system does once a year. Ask questions. If you're Group A, I can get you the number to our engineer over at the State Department of Health for specific questions. If you're Group B, people in our office may be able to help you. And if you're on an individual well, we are definitely there to help you.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is so important that we get the word out and that people, whether they're the homeowner or the renter, know where their water system comes from, know who they can contact in case of emergency, and know how that water is sampled and what the results are.
So if there was, as we hear, the E. coli outbreak up north in the Belfair area, and you were hearing questions from people in Shelton, is there ever a chance that the two, because they're two separate systems, right?
Definitely.
Is there ever a chance that it could get cross-contaminated, or if it's one system over, it can leach into? Is that a concern that you have?
Not really in this area because of the geology, I guess, of this area. We have pockets of water.
Oh, okay.
And they're pretty much independent of one another. I'm not going to say that they can't connect, but...
so it's not like just a big underground aquifer that
Right.
people are sticking straws into.
Spokane is a single source aquifer.
Okay.
They have one humongous aquifer and everybody drills down into it. Here we have these little pockets and individual things. Water here is from very new in those shallow wells to very old in the deep wells where it comes from the Olympics underground.
Okay.
So we have quite a mix of water in the area too.
How does a coli outbreak like this happen?
Oh, lots of different things, but the main reason is somebody did some work on the system and didn't disinfect properly.
Oh.
That's what we find is that somebody broke a pipe when they were out digging in their yard. Somebody replaced a pump or a portion of their own well, and it wasn't disinfected when it was put back in.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever seen somebody replace a pump in a well, but they lay everything out on the ground because it's quite kind of long.
Yeah.
And pull the old one out and put the new one down hand over hand most of the time. And it's really important that that be disinfected.
What do you disinfect it with?
Plain old chlorine bleach.
Oh.
And there is a table that gives the amount that you put in, just like you use for camping for emergency drinking water.
Oh, okay.
You know, where you put in a couple of drops and let it sit. This you use more, and you mix the bleach with water in a 5-gallon bucket and pour it so it coats the inside of the well casing as it goes down. And then you turn on the water in all of the spigots, inside and outside at the property, till you can smell some of that bleach. Let it sit for 4 hours to overnight, then flush the system, and you've chlorinated your system.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. Deb, before we get you out of here, just a couple minutes left this morning. We have not heard a lot in the news recently about lead in the pipes and the waters, and I know that that's a concern for many people across the country. And in some portions of Western Washington as well, people are still seeing lead in the pipes and results of lead pipes. How are we looking here around these areas?
Well, I don't have definite numbers, but I think we're looking pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
The superintendent of public instruction took it upon themselves to send information out to each and every school.
Okay.
And the schools then did their own testing. When I was here in June, it was June.
Yeah, June, I think, yeah.
I had called the schools and offered up our assistance if they needed it. Most of them were very aware of the letter from the superintendent of public instruction, and their maintenance folks were on top of it. As far as our own individual citizens, we're not hearing too much from them. We're not getting reports of high lead. And of course, in newer installations, we don't have that.
Yeah.
So it's just the
Okay.
very old. And I think, the city did some repiping in the not too distant past. But we're not hearing about it right here in Mason County.
So the tests presumably have been given, and people are working towards the recommendations from the state, and I guess no news is good news.
Well, and we did have the 3 hits back then.
Yeah.
One was at a private school, and they did the things they needed to do to make it right. One was at the Highway Patrol Academy.
That's right,
and
yeah.
they turned off the drinking fountains and
I do
started
remember
providing
that.
bottled water. And I cannot remember the third one.
There
right
was a
now.
third one, you're right.
Yes.
I can't remember it either.
But they all mitigated what
Sure.
they had to do. So the people that we knew about early on did what they needed to do right away and took care of the situation.
Very good. Deb Riley from Mason County Public Health. Love talking with you about a wide range of issues always. And so don't be a stranger. Come on back, and
Thank
we'll
you,
talk
Jeff.
again.